It still needs to have a human touch. It still needs to be reviewed and edited and revised by a human. But some of the brainstorming can be taken out of it, where it can be the brainstorm power for you. That's why our mission is education, awareness, and then the resources.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back for another special episode. With us today is the president of the Philantrepreneur Foundation, Dr. Victoria Boyd. Her Building Nonprofit Capacity Through Education, Awareness, and Resources. We'll be talking about the upcoming summit, AI and technology, and how they can work better for nonprofits and businesses. Dr. Victoria Boyd, so great to see you. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Oh, I am doing great. I'm so happy to be here, Chris. We got so much on our plate coming up, so much in the past, so much coming up in the future, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So tell us more about your experience, your journey. Tell us more about your past experience and what you're doing today.
Absolutely. Many people want to hear, how'd you get there? Well, technically, I was an educator. I taught dance first for 28 years, and then I transitioned to being the state arts achievement consultant for the state of Michigan. And I worked with 68 school districts and 38 magnet schools or charter schools, and did a lot in curriculum development, teacher standards. But I also, being an arts consultant, I was able to produce art fairs, student art fairs. I brought in the Royal London Shakespeare Company from London to do a performance. I was the executive director of an educational television network. So that really got me into the media side of it. Current to teaching, all that, because I was in the arts, I was teaching dance, I was in a performing arts high school. I had to raise money. And raising money is a whole nother animal. But I had a knack for it. And I also was involved in many arts nonprofits. I've been president, I've been executive director, I have formed, merged, and closed nonprofits. So I got a real feel for the administrative side, the leadership side of nonprofit work. And then I found certain niches that I really liked, and that was the production, the creative side. Tapped into me being a creative in dance and things. That was my pre-career. Okay, that was the career before I moved out west. Because technically, being an arts consultant, when they cut arts are the first to go, literally, they offered me my retirement or layoff. I said, what are you going to give me for retirement? I ended up retiring with a nice package and moved out west. That's a new journey. But this is where I really focused on the nonprofit sector and became a nonprofit specialist. While here, I have worked for 4 different nonprofits, one being a school district, which is a nonprofit, was there for 18 months. Then I went to the Nevada Arts Council. Then I went to Nevada Ballet Theater. And then my 4th experience was with the Springs Preserve Foundation. All of these were big organizations here in Clark County. But what I kept hearing and seeing is that the systems, the operations, the management had big gaps. And I started teaching nonprofit management at UNLV here. And I did that several different courses for about 8 years. But I kept seeing these same gaps because in the big university settings, you can't really always add the courses that you think they need because they have to justify it with signups and pupils. And so I started creating courses on my own. I created the Nuts and Bolts NPO training, and literally, where anyone who would give me space, I was teaching and holding sessions. And so it really set the foundation that took me back to my roots of being an educator, helping other people reach their full potential. But it was just happened to be in the nonprofit sector. So in 2012, I launched on Blog Talk Radio the Philantrepreneur Show. And Philantrepreneur, the whole philosophy is philanthropy and entrepreneurship should work together, because if you are in the nonprofit sector, you need to think like you've got to have that mindset. Just because you say it, it will not come. Launched that, and with that show, the Blog Talk Show, I was really featuring businesses that were giving back to the community to really stay in tune with that whole philanthropic and philantrepreneur mindset. But I also launched 4 months after launching the blog talk show, the Philantrepreneur Journal, which was a digital publication. Was having a ball, stories and tips and strategies. And then out of the blue, a marketer called me. He had seen the term philantrepreneur and was watching its trajectory, in which I was like, okay, so tell me all about it, because that's not my area. What he brought to me was a lot of information, but the only thing now that I remember, he told me that it was a German company trying to trademark it. And I was like, what? I already had the show and the magazine. And so I hung up from him and immediately called a trademark lawyer because I was freaking out. I had the website. I was like, oh my God, they're going to take my stuff. And after explaining to the lawyer, he said, okay, let me check. Came literally within 10 minutes. He said, well, I got good news. I got bad. There is a German company trying to trademark the Philantrepreneur, and they are watching you because they filed their articles of incorporation in Nevada, where I am. And he said, the good news, though, is they filed their paperwork wrong with the U.S. Trademark system. And I think we have about 72 hours. If we can get this in, we can do it. But at that time, my company name was the Galaxy Group. He said, is there any way you could possibly create the Philantrepreneur as a corporation? Hey, I help people start nonprofits. I was like, I think so. So basically, within the next 48 hours, I formed the Philantrepreneur Foundation and sent all of that paperwork to him. He applied for the trademark Philantrepreneur, and there's subnames for that foundation, all this other stuff for media and broadcast and educational, all the stuff he put on there. I got it 8 months later.
Wow.
So that was the journey how I got here. Now I just create training. I'm an author of 5 books. I love writing content, and I sort of gravitated toward the marketing, content development. I help people write all the content for their websites, done training on donor attraction and retention. It's called the Super Donor Challenge from Pat Flynn's Super Fan, using that same model, but in the nonprofit sector. I wrote Board Bound Leadership, which is right here behind me, for roles and responsibilities of board members. I wrote Webinar Secrets, was a product of COVID. You're home, you can't do it. And so I tended to go online and watch webinars. They were so bad. And I'm like, my God, me being an educator, a curriculum developer, and know how to write presentations and training, I just sat down and wrote a book on how to create a webinar because I was sick of all these bad webinars. So it's for entrepreneurs because it is the speak to sell format, how you engage them with content-driven and value-driven content. And then you use the last few minutes to then give them the value proposition and things like that, versus talking about yourself for 20 minutes up front, giving them 2 minutes of content and then a 20-minute pitch afterwards. So those have all been the stepping stones to get my expertise. I am a certified AI specialist, so I have certification in AI, and hopefully my next book is the Nonprofit AI Playbook. Crossing my fingers on that. But I love writing and sharing information on the how, because those are the general questions that I get. And that's how it all evolved now to where we are today with the Nonprofit Impact Summits. And yes, it is S on it because there's 3 per year, April, August, and October. And I'm excited. April is coming up, which you're speaking in. And it's called AI and Technology for Nonprofits of the Nonprofit Impact Summits. The April and October are smaller one-day events. We have currently 8 speakers, which is great because that's a full day because each speaker gets 20 to 25 minutes. Most people go over that, but they can do chats and things like that. So that's a full day of learning, but it's 8 different sessions on a wide technology. One is on websites, what nonprofit websites, the technical side, what they really need so that they're compliant with the Google Ad grants. Landing pages, what are essential to be on landing pages. We're talking AI employees. We have someone speaking about that. Cybersecurity, a session on cybersecurity. I'm doing a session on QR codes. So a lot of different areas, but they will all help with fundraising, marketing, just getting and being that support system to enhance the systems, operations, and management that should be in place already.
Those
So
are all the essentials.
that's April 16th.
April 16th. I'm excited to speak there and to learn from others and just more of your experience, because you have a lot of experience both with the analytical systems piece, but then also with the creative marketing as well.
Yes.
And that's that perfect intersection of marketing and relationships and bringing value and building a real professional business, because nonprofits starting up, ideas are great, but it's all in the execution as well. Can you get buy-ins from other people?
Yeah. And I mentioned to you before, a lot of people want to tell me their mission and what they're all about. I understand it's coming from their heart, and I appreciate them having that passion for it. But I want to know, what systems are you using? What's your website look like? How are you managing all of this? Are you using CRMs? Do you have a payment donation portal and platform? And that's when I get the deer in the headlight look like, oh, I don't know about that. Well, that's where you need to start.
Right. And that's okay.
And no individual person should be responsible for that. It should all, I'm big automation. Everything should be automated or in some sort of digital format, because employees come and go. If one person is the doorkeeper or the handler, then that becomes personalized information, basically. And when they're gone, you almost have to start over. And I've seen that happen so many times. I hate just executive directors get in there and they just manage everything, but they don't delegate, share, or try to teach others how to keep a legacy going so that the organization can be sustainable. So that's another tip to hopefully get people thinking about how can they actually take things off their plate and put them into a system.
Absolutely. And even at the regular for-profit business level, a lot of business owners will mistakenly think, I need to hire an employee first, when they should really create a system and automate first. Then you can hire a human to take on those tasks.
Yeah. Going back to the book, Board Bound Leadership, new boards, or people say, oh, we need to get a lawyer and a CPA on our board. And I'm like, you think you're going to be in trouble? Do you need a lawyer? You're going to have some legal problems? Do you? Are you anticipating legal problems? Then why do you need a lawyer? All they would be good for is to interpret financial statements, because technically you're supposed to go to an outside agency or to do your audits. An internal person isn't supposed. So you really don't need a CPA. Look at what your programs are. If you're dealing with the homeless, get someone that specializes in displaced people or finding resources or things like that. So align those on your board with the goals and impact that you're trying to have with your mission.
Absolutely. And with you being AI certified, what ways do you think AI is evolving to that can really help nonprofits? Because it's changed over the last 3 to 4 years.
My belief, first, I'm going to bust some myths. There's a lot of myths about, then they need to get out of the mindset that it's going to replace people. No, it's not. It enhances what your people need to do. It still needs to have a human touch. It still needs to be reviewed and edited and revised by a human. But some of the brainstorming can be taken out of it, where it can be the brainstorm power for you. Say, hey, chat, or Claude, how you doing? Can you tell me about so-and-so? But then just learning how to use a SMS bot. If someone calls or you're using as an answering service, your AI employee, to answer the phone, actually ask some qualifying questions and then direct them in the right direction. If they're calling to give a donation, send them to the donation portal. Send it through a text. You got their phone number if they call. So there's little tips like that. And many nonprofits just probably aren't aware. That's why our mission is education, awareness, and then the resources.
Yes, because first they have to realize it's a problem, educate them on the solutions, and potentially working with you, or at least educate them to empower themselves. That way they can implement their own systems. Of course,
Right.
they're not getting the full package unless they come with you, because they're getting the years of experience. They know
Yes.
how it's been done before, what's worked. So they really get the full service when they come to you. It's the white glove.
Yeah, and I call it the concierge service.
Ooh, I love
Yeah, I
that.
have a program called Concierge Services.
Very nice. AI can assist with concierge services as well, just as you mentioned, in ways where make it easy for them to take the next step. If they want donation, take them to donation page. If they want to do this, take them to that. There's too much friction that happens. People are, if I go to a website and I'm looking to donate, if there's no donate button, where do I go?
That's why we're doing that website training. I have helped many people create their websites, or I've reviewed them. And I said, okay, think of a newspaper. Your donate button needs to be above the fold. And some people aren't even familiar with newspapers. That's sort of dating myself.
Remember them.
Oh,
They still exist.
okay, so I can't use that analogy anymore, but it needs to be above the fold. Or think of the menu. Put the donate button in the menu. And whatever your color scheme for your website or your branding, make the donate button something totally different. Don't matchy. Make it
Now is not
it's
the time for
obvious.
consistency.
And some people want to stand out. Why not?
Right. They're looking for consistency when really, hey, you need to stand out. You, like a peacock, show the feathers. You have to stand out, grab the attention.
Right. And there's a lot of little tips about the website landing, using Google ad grants. I use AI to create my Google ad campaigns. It does the keyword planning, searches, SEO. It maps out the words.
And how much time did you save? I mean, for me as an agency, I would even estimate to do just even a halfway decent Google Ads campaign, 2 to 3 hours with adding AI in. You're like, what is that? 5 to 20
Okay.
minutes? Just to
I've been
input?
doing Google ad grants for years. And yes, it used to take hours. But if you know how to prompt, that's the key. Those are some of the basic things you need to learn to really be effective with chat. And there's a method to prompting. A lot of people say, oh, you just get in there and ask questions. No, but if you give it the right prompts, it spits it out in seconds. And the hardest part is going through Google's ad area where you have to log into your account and go through create new ad. That takes more time answering all of the questions. And even if I get to a question, I'm not sure, should I do this one or this? I go back to chat. Okay, I got it here. I'm at this one. Should I go this way?
Definitely use it as that resource too. If I run into a question, it even spit out some website code, custom CSS, to help stylize my blog section on my website. And it's just as simple as that. I was like, ask a question, refine it, and it can give you an output and an example.
And let's put a little disclaimer in here. Sometimes chat makes mistakes. So they even have it on the bottom of their page. So don't take it as the gospel. That's why the human touch is still required. Because I did a couple questions about Go High Level, that whole system, and it actually came back with the wrong answer. And I went back and said, oh, I thought so. And they came back, sorry, Vicky, you are right.
Like, my bad.
Almost my bad. I've been laughing at this whole AI stuff. Another time it came back and said, in my opinion. I was like, oh, you have an opinion?
So now we're thinking now? Huh, interesting.
As you see, I just play on it. And a couple of days it told me, you've reached your limit. I'm like, sorry.
Oh, whoops, that can happen pretty quickly. Have you ever asked AI to roast you? It can be very, very funny to see the result. Not even just yourself, ask it to roast maybe the state you live in or the city. And it'll be interesting to see.
I did ask it to interview me.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah, I learned that in my certification. In fact, it's here in Las Vegas, AI Mastery. If you want to have your own agency, like you were mentioning, I don't know if I want to go down that route, but I definitely want to be able to offer products to my nonprofit clients. So since it's here in the city, it gets me out of this studio or where I am now. It makes me people. See, I've been anti-peopling lately.
We've all been there.
So I'm like, okay, I need to start peopling again because it's so easy to be immersed in the virtual where I'm talking to you. I've never met you, but I consider this peopling now.
I think it still qualifies too. And as long as we're filling that void, the void of the communication, seeing someone face to face at least, that's still a real authentic human connection that you have. And just the in-person events aren't quite as popular. And I don't know where you live, but for us, it's cold right now.
I'm in Las Vegas. Sorry.
Oh, my favorite place to be. I was just looking up stays for my coming trip. So if you're available, I'll stop in and say hi.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can meet up for coffee somewhere. Absolutely. And this is where I moved here in 2003, right after I retired from Michigan. Came to Las Vegas because I couldn't open my side door in Michigan because the snow was so deep.
You are the person that I've always talked about wanting to be, where I'm like, I'm just going to move somewhere warmer, but every winter passes and I never do, but I just need to do it.
When you're entrenched in your career, to just pick up and it has to have some really motivational pull that makes you want to go through all of that. Okay,
Yes.
I had just been retired. I was the horse they led out to pasture.
But wasn't that still so early in your career?
Yeah, I was only 52, but I had 32 years because I started in the system right after college. And so I already had 32 years of teaching or in the educational system as teacher and consultant. And it was all under the same system, Michigan educational system. So they said, hey, you're over 32 years and you can retire. So I looked at my options. My brother lived in Las Vegas. I would visit here quite often. The housing market was pretty good at that time. Took a trip out here over Christmas, looked at houses and actually picked one. I picked a house not knowing I was being laid off or retired. I was just getting it for my 5-year retirement plan, have it as my vacation home, signed all the paperwork to build and bought the land and all of that stuff in February and got my layoff notice March 30th, that my last day would be June 30th. So my 5-year plan literally came down to 5 months because I moved here in July. So from February and was living here July 7th to start work the first week in August. It was crazy. I didn't even get into that transition, but that's how I got out here. That's how I wrote my very first book called The Wealthy Teacher, answering the question, what's next? Because I was like, I don't know.
And 52 with all that experience, I mean, you still had so much. So
I was looking for what was next.
Yeah.
I'm not retired. I have too much energy. They used to call me the Energizer Bunny. So I was looking for what's next. And that book started as a journal because I was writing down my pros and cons and what I loved. And it ended up being a business book when the editor read it and they were like, this is a business book. And I'm like, really? Yeah, you're showing people how to find their value and how to monetize it. Okay, let's make it a business book. So I fell into that. That was my love of sharing information and teaching. But then I worked for, like I said, 4 different nonprofits here, and then realized that I think filling the gap was where I really found my passion. So that's where I started creating my own information sources and resources and things like that. And that way I could also focus on it. I'm interested in creatives, the design, creating thumbnails. I have a YouTube channel. I have the podcast.
yeah, where can people connect with you and find you online? Feel free to drop those channel names or links and we'll provide those in the description as well.
Okay, yeah, the TPF, the Philantrepreneur Foundation, TPF Network. That's my YouTube channel. That's where all my podcasts are. And then I do logic model training for the framework for program planning. I do the Super Donor Challenge, which is the system for attracting and retaining donors and making them your super donors or super fans. Google Ad Grant ebooks. I have a cybersecurity for, you name it, I got it.
You are full of resources. You come into the conference center with a trench coat and you open it up and it's just got all these tools and resources. You're like,
One you
"Maybe I
want."
got it." And then like a big cart comes behind you. You're like, I also have.
I do have my lanes. Fundraising and marketing is really what I like. I think marketing is, but I don't look at social media and all of that. I'm looking strategically, the whole community, the customer journey. Some people say donor, they're still customers. But I look at that journey. And then how are you going to communicate that? That's through your impact. You find that out through the logic model. So all of these pieces work together. Google Ad Grant, that's still marketing and getting it out there. It's just digital. So how are you going to communicate? Where are you sending? And I focus more, where are you sending them? What does that landing page look like? When they get there, what are they going to do? Are they going to have to search for a whole bunch of stuff? Or do they go to exactly what they were looking for and don't have to search? So that's the power of landing. Okay.
This is what it's all about. And I wanted to ask a little bit more because of that experience with working with nonprofits. What has been working to build those relationships to increase the dollars? What should nonprofits be looking towards and focusing on to have the most impact?
Consistent communication. They want to hear what's happening. Literally, donors just want to hear. They want to be kept in the loop. They want to hear the success stories. They don't always just want to hear from you when you need something, okay? And that's survival mode. Oh, woe is us. We're going to close these programs if you don't help. No, they want to hear success stories. And so I call it 10 touch points. Throughout the year, you should have at least, that's a minimum, 10 touch points where you have reached out to them with just communication, not inviting them to an event or this is our annual fundraising time or whatever. Just send out a email newsletter once a month. That's 12 right there. If you think about it, there's 12 months. If you send out one a month with just informational pieces on what's happening, do an employee spotlight, who's on the board, informational pieces. Always have a donor record area. We appreciate you. They want to be recognized and appreciated, and then ask for feedback. Simple enough. Then on top of that, when you invite them to all these other things, and learn their names when they come. Be the networker. Be the little butterfly that flops around and introduces and works, as they used to say, work the room. If you still have live events. But there's a lot of virtual events now. You can do a silent auction online now with the Paybe, which is one of those auction hybrid where you can either have an actual auctioneer or just a timer clock where it ticks down. And so there's so many strategies out there. It's just, what is the niche that works for your mission and who you serve? Because if you're in a recovery type of organization, you're not going to promote wine and beer or something.
Here's our sponsor, you know.
So you have to think about, where are your people? And you have two types of people. You have the constituents you serve, and then the donors that support that. So your language and your communication line is totally different. So you almost need two threads of what to say. I could talk.
And I love hearing about it. And that's why I'm asking these questions, because it is so important. I'm also assisting a nonprofit with their execution, their strategy now. They're in a similar mindset of this quick hurry up, quick minute offense. And I said, let's pump the brakes here. I know you want to go fast, but we have to go fast in the right direction. We just have to move with intent. So let's not scramble and just put together this play. Let's plan it well.
Let's go ad grants. It takes about 60 days or at least 2 to 3 months for Google to system the algorithms to even pick up your ads, to start pushing them to the top of the surface. And that's why it's so important to have those keywords and do the planning and have the right contents to make sure it's striking the chord of what people are looking for. But you got to deal with the algorithms.
We're still beholden to them, yes.
Yeah,
we have to appease Google.
They give you $10,000 a month. That's patience. But if it's set up right, it's guaranteed to be going out because they're sending it out once you create a campaign. It's going out. It has to take time to pick up on the algorithms. It's not like posting on social media where you see it immediately, but then who sees it? Unless you pay for it.
Right.
Yeah.
In the same way that social media is trying to see who's engaging, who's viewing at it, to see who's going to stay longer, Google is going to do the same to match search intent. And does it meet the criteria? Do people click through it? Are they happy with the search result? So all these things.
And plus with Google grant, you have to have a 5% click-through rate that in order to keep the grant. Fortunately, my numbers are higher than that. Some of my numbers are from ads that I placed years ago. 15 fundraising strategies. That one I placed probably 6 years ago, and it's still getting 10 to 12% click-through rate. And
That's
I'm like,
incredible.
wow.
You're hitting the mark. Google is rewarding you for a job well done.
I'm like, okay, that one stays.
Absolutely. Is there anything else going on? We have the summit coming up. Anything else exciting that you're looking forward to coming up in 2025?
Well, doing my podcast interviews. I'm going to be interviewing all the people that are on the summit, but I'm also reaching out to anybody who wants to be on the Nonprofit Corner podcast. Come be a guest. That is one of my biggest challenges, is finding guests, because I'm so busy working to set up summits and stuff. I sort of forget to research and ask guests. And that's why,
Right.
like how I met you, I was in that podcast group looking for guests.
It was a perfect timing, and I'd be happy to share some strategies for finding other guests as well with you, just to make it a little bit easier. But that's a part of working together, collaborating, sharing ideas. We can do it to help lift each other up.
Yep. And see, even like with your podcast, I'm going to put it on the TPF network. So it's get exposure over
Thank you. That's so awesome. Thank you
Whenever
for-
I'm on a podcast, I share it on all of my platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of those.
All of them, right? It's like the big 2 to 3 now became big 6, 7. Now we have a full arsenal of social media we can have at our fingertips.
Yeah. And just with anything, you have to pick where are your people. With so many platforms, I don't use Pinterest. That's not where my people are. I do use LinkedIn because that's where leaders are. And so Facebook, that's where volunteers and the other constituents are. So there's a place for each platform that I think really is. One last thing, anybody who wants to sponsor any of our summits, because this is the inaugural year for the nonprofit impact summits, sponsorship actually gets the whole year for at least 3 summits. Depending on when they sign up, I'll give them 3 summits in a cycle, and it's very reasonable. But it's sponsorship with impact because you're helping not one organization, hundreds. That was my pitch for the decade.
That is wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Victoria Boyd. We appreciate it. Excited to participate in the summit and look forward to the other ones and everything else that you're doing to the nonprofit world and just businesses and people as a whole. Keep up the great work. We appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you.